Ghostbusters! I just love it when you throw me a bone every now and then, Rhino. I think this one and the Mario one I got, and maybe a few others. But yeah, it is Friday, so we got Tanya in the house to talk movies here on Good Things. Apparently, Ghostbusters, is it releasing this weekend?
Yeah, this is the weekend, and this week the cast was on the Tonight Show, and they sang the theme song with school classroom instruments.
Mm-hmm.
It was the cutest thing. I mean, they still got it. I mean, that's a hit. People are still singing it, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's catchy, and who you gonna call?
Yeah, I know. It's such a great
Yeah.
movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, great song and movie. But yeah, so this one is Frozen Empire. So it's still in the same vein as the Ghostbusters that we love. But it's like a direct sequel to the one that came out about 3 years ago.
So is this the third? What number is this?
This is, like,
4.
technically it's 5, but 4 with like the original Ghostbusters kind of thing. They did the female Ghostbusters. That was a bit of a bomb.
Yeah, that one doesn't count.
Yeah. And, you know, great cast, but the movie just didn't get off the ground. It just, to me, was a waste of talent. But yeah, so this one is really number 4. Yeah, Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, Ghostbusters Afterlife, and now Frozen
And the
Empire.
Afterlife was the one we've had a year or so ago?
Yeah. So in that one, this one picks up really where that one left off. You know, you've got the single mom and her kids who move out to the mom's deceased dad's farm, where they discover all the Ghostbusters equipment and find themselves catching ghosts. And we end that one with some of our original Ghostbusters coming back and helping them. And we see at the very end, they're back at the firehouse in New York. And that's where all the action in this one takes place. They're back at the original Ghostbusters office. All of the Ghostbusters are back, all those that are living. And so in this one, excuse me, they have to team up. The family that we met in the last movie have to team up with the original Ghostbusters to take busting ghosts to the next level.
Of course they do.
But they find an ancient artifact that threatens to unleash evil on the world that could result in the next ice age. So they have to step in and keep that from happening. So it is PG-13 for just the normal. I mean, if you've seen the others, it's the same kind of stuff. You know, sometimes those ghosts can be scary.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're really cute too. So it's a nice balance. This one is also directed or produced and written by Jason Reitman from the last film. It runs just under 2 hours, which to me is a perfect length. Paul Rudd's back, Carrie Coon's back, Flynn Wolfhand, McKenna Grace, all from the first movie, and of course Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray. So,
do they leave the door open for more? Because I feel like they could milk this if they wanted to.
Yeah, I think so. I think for sure.
I wonder what it is that has really captivated for people to keep coming back.
Well, I think this is the perfect example of where you have people like me who, the first one came out when I was a kid. I was obsessed with it. I did not buy the costume, but I had the album and listened to it all the time. Loved the movie, loved those actors. And then now I'm grown up and I'm still drawn to it because it takes me back to, you know,
and you get to introduce it to your
times.
kids.
Yeah. And yeah, you get to introduce your kids. And
have your kids seen the original?
They have, and they loved it. We watched it at home years ago when they were, you know, probably still in elementary school, maybe even lower elementary, and they loved it. It can be
a little creepy. It has moments of little scariness.
Yeah, for sure. But they loved it, and they loved the theme song too, you know.
I think it's one of those, even if you hadn't seen it, like, I think even like my smallest would know, like, could hum it.
Yeah.
And you just hear it, and then you just can't, you know, you can't get it out of your head.
Yeah, and it's just one of those movies that's such a part of pop culture, you know. So I think even if you've never seen it, you kind of know about it, you know.
Could you go see this one without having seen the third one?
Yeah, I think so for sure, because it really, you know, has a little bit of a recap So just through the telling of the news story.
Is there anything that's coming up against it this weekend?
Well, actually, in the horror genre, I feel like we have the horror movie of the week, and this week is no exception. It's called Immaculate, rated R, and this is like a really scary movie. And the two things we don't like, we've talked about it before, nuns and horror movies. So anyway, that's what this one is. It is Sydney Sweeney, who seems to be the it girl right now. She's in everything. But she plays a nun who is, starting a new journey in a remote convent and in Italy, and it's, scary.
Yeah. So what you're telling me is you hadn't seen this one.
No, I have not seen that one, and I will not.
You're not taking one for the team. I don't blame you.
But there are a couple coming out on streaming this weekend that I have seen. The first one is Roadhouse. So talking about remakes.
Tell me it's good.
You know what? I read a lot before I watched it, and so many people hated it. But I didn't think it was the worst movie I've seen. I will tell you the highlights. I think Jake Gyllenhaal is great. I think he's a perfect casting decision for this movie. Of course, he's not Patrick Swayze, but nobody is. So you just got to forget Patrick Swayze for this movie.
Ooh, how?
But if you like action, if you like, that MMA fighting, you're going to love this one. The action is really good. The highlights for me were the scenes in the bar, the people that worked in the bar. I wish it had a little bit more of that. Some of the supporting cast, you've got like Conor McGregor, who's like a real boxer fighter,
and I heard he accidentally punched him.
Oh yeah.
And he said Jake took it pretty well. It's like he didn't have any choice. Like Conor McGregor just accidentally punches you.
I know.
You lay there for a second.
He he was hurt. He was taking some Advil that night. But some of those characters that are in the movie, the acting's not great, but there's some funny moments. The plot's not so great. It's kind of predictable, very much like the first movie. As far as the plot, they just changed up a few things. Like instead of him living in a barn, he lives in on a houseboat. Just little things like that. But overall, I think it's definitely
worth a stream.
Yeah, just it's on Amazon. It's definitely, since it's free. I mean, go for it. And I thought Jake did a great job, and he really put the work in to look like he's a former fighter, and his past just kind of haunts him a little bit, and you see him having all kinds of dreams about that, his past fighting life, and he's just kind of on the run trying to find himself, and just like the first movie, and becomes a bouncer in this bar.
Because that's going to fix your problems.
Yeah. And he can't understand why there's so many fights. I mean, what's going on with this bar? And of course, there's all kinds of behind the scenes terrible things happening. And then there's another one on Netflix called Shirley. This one stars Regina King, who has spent 15 years developing this movie, which just blows my mind. But it's based on the true story of Shirley Chisholm, who was the first black woman, to be elected to Congress. And then secondly, she ran for president in 1972. I know. So this is a great, I did see this one too. She's fantastic. I mean, I forgot I was watching Regina King. She's really takes on the character very well. But it's one of those movies that inspires you. It's a great education tool. I mean, I feel like I learned a lot that I didn't know. I've seen her portrayed before in other movies. That the most recent was a miniseries with a Mrs. America. She was in that about women's rights movement, equal rights. And anyway, but yeah, so this just kind of highlights the barriers that she broke down. And it opens up with a scene. You see her taking her first picture with Congress on the steps of the Capitol. And then you see her going to work and how some of the men treated her and how she did not back down. She gave them gave it right back to them. So it's a really good movie to watch.
Last Friday, we went and saw Kung Fu Panda, and highly recommend it for families. For the 11-year-old, myself, and even the 4-year-old, fully enjoyed it. So if you're still looking for something family friendly, you hadn't seen it yet, we enjoyed it, and it was not long at all. So it hit that sort of sweet spot. So good recommendation there, Tanya. All right, you guys stick with us to get more for you coming up next.